Hello candidates, and welcome back to my channel. Long time no see. My name is Michaela. I am the content creator behind KandidKayla.com. Here on this platform, we are all about growing ourselves, in ourselves, and for ourselves by working through the 8 different dimensions of wellness and maximizing those for ourselves. So today I'm going to just kind of give you guys a bit of a download of where I've been and really what I've learned over the last few months while I've been away. Basically as a precursor for all the rest of the content to come over the next coming weeks. So if you guys are interested, then please stay tuned. So I have been gone, as you can see, and I have changed a lot. I have bangs, I've gotten a haircut, I'm looking different, feeling different, acting different, all of the things, and it has definitely been a ride and a journey. So the last video that I came to you guys with was about 3 months ago, and it was all about how to overcome depression and how I personally walked through my own series of depression and thought I had conquered it. And the crazy thing is, it's funny how God works. I had no idea that I was about to walk back into another bout with depression after years and years and years of fighting. I had finally I thought I had come out of it, but I've recently found myself going back through it. More specifically, I've been in what I would like to consider crisis. And so not so much to like, this isn't my rock bottom or anything. I wasn't committed, thank you, Lord, but I definitely have walked through storms the last few months that I never thought I would go to or go through. And it has definitely been a ride beyond the obvious, COVID-19 and the stay-at-home orders and things of that nature. I've been just really struggling with family members who've gotten sick, and one of my family members had a stroke. Just the dynamics of being in close quarters with your family all the time, feeling isolated, and not really knowing how to handle the stress that comes with everything that I'm dealing with. Add on top of that, I'm getting a PhD. I'm still trying to figure out all the in-betweens, and my program is coming to an end soon, and I really need to start thinking about the end, and everything just kind of came and started crashing down all at once. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, Depression hits, crisis hits, things happen, and how we deal with it definitely proves if we're going to be strong or not. So my way of trying to handle it and trying to get through it was to work my wellness plan. And I came to a point where I had to realize what happens when the wellness plan isn't working. What happens? What do you do when you've done everything on the wellness plan? You're working the steps, you're praying, you're fasting, you're doing everything you know in your power to do, but you're still not okay inside. And I had finally hit that point, and I'm glad that I did. I am not through it, right? Today is a good day, and thus I'm making this video, but I'm not through it, not by a long shot. I'm still struggling. I have good days, I have bad days, but I'm working so that my good days outweigh my bad days. And that's all that I can do. But I wanted to come today and I wanted to really share with you guys a few things that I've done to try to bring myself out, and also just some tips that I have for navigating crisis. So the first thing is, when navigating crisis, never forget to love yourself. I have a blog post that's coming out. It'll be linked in the description box below, as well as the cards, about loving yourself through crisis, loving yourself through depression or anxiety or whatever it is that you're struggling with, right? And understanding that when the Bible speaks of love being patient and kind and long-suffering and all the things, we have to extend that same grace onto ourselves. And so how can we expect the people around us to do those things if we can't even do them for ourselves? And more importantly, when trying to teach the people around us how to love us in crisis, they kind of can only take a page out of our own book. So if we're not being kind to ourselves, we're not being gentle to ourselves, we're not loving ourselves, they don't know what to do. They are paralyzed with fear because they don't want to make it worse. and they don't know how to make it better. And it's not their job to make it better. So love yourself through. Love every bit of yourself, right? So something that I'm struggling with in particular is I lose concepts of reality in the sense of like what is okay, what is not okay, who's for me or not for me. I instinctively just think everything is bad. And when I'm loving on myself, there's no way that I can think that I'm bad, right? If I'm struggling with, do the people care about me? It doesn't matter what they think about me. What do I feel about myself? How do I love myself? How do I bring myself out? How do I get myself before the Lord? Am I acceptable in His eyes? Am I acceptable in my own eyes? And that's all that really matters. So having that love relationship, that love connection with yourself as well as with Christ, will help bring you out. The second thing that I would recommend is to keep working your wellness plan. I start to realize that I'm going downhill when I'm not working the plan. So it starts with little things like me not filling out my bullet journal, or forgetting a day, or forgetting to work out on a day, or choosing. I might have food here at home, but I'll choose to go get like chicken tenders, which has been my new bad. Going to get chicken tenders and extra crispy fries and smothering everything in salt, knowing that I don't need that for myself. I don't want that for myself, but just these little tweaks off the wellness plan. They start small, right? And that's not to say that I don't allow myself a cheat meal or anything like that, but deliberately going away from my wellness plan and knowing what's good for me. Those small compromises is what leads to the big snowballs that eventually I can't get out of bed. I don't want to get out of bed. I stop answering the phone. I'll go off and seclude and things like that, which are not good. So really trying to work through everything. Sometimes you need your external to reflect what your internal can't. And just those little changes by making the choice to eat the broccoli versus the chicken tender, or making the choice to drink the water instead of the soda, or going for the run instead of staying inside and watching TV, those small changes make the world of difference, long lasting when it comes to actually being able to kickstart yourself back into wellness out of crisis. The third thing is to just give yourself time. I think that we have this view that wellness doesn't ever include crisis, and that's not true. God does his best growing of us in times when we can't depend on ourselves. And for me personally, that's often when I'm going through crisis. I mature so much faster. I grow so much deeper. I dig deep, and I kind of have to start correcting the things inside of myself that actually lead to the crisis. So for me, like I said, not taking care of myself, just the little things. So feeling like I had this blog that needed to be done at the beginning of the semester. I was trying to push out at least 3 blog posts a week. 2 of those 3 blog posts a week being videos, which are very time consuming to record, even more time consuming to edit, and then top all that off with trying to get a draft of the manuscript done once every 2 weeks, as well as meeting with my mentee and trying to sell at least a certain amount of candy cream every week, all proved to just be so stressful so quickly. Those expectations started to have me make compromises in things like adequate sleep, time for myself, being able to actually sit with my thoughts and make decisions based on how I actually feel, even being connected to how I feel at all emotionally. So really navigating that and working that and having the grace to understand that it takes time, right? You have to go through the crisis. So give yourself the time to go through it. And I didn't have to necessarily go through this. I think if I had given myself a little bit more grace on those expectations in the beginning, I wouldn't still be in crisis. But it's okay. The crisis is going to breed something inside of me. The pressure is going to breed diamonds, and it's not pretty. while you're going through it, by no means, but that time that you give yourself to allow God to do what he has to do, and the grace that you give yourself to allow God to do what he has to do is unparalleled. So give yourself grace and give yourself time to actually get through it. So the fourth thing that I would recommend is to ensure that you have a community that you are getting help from. So I haven't been walking this alone. In the past, when I go into a series of crisis, I have a tendency to just retreat within myself. And usually I'll just keep it within my parents and I. Maybe a sibling or two might know, but I try to keep it within just me and my parents. But this time I've actually tried something different, and I'm not going to say that it's working any better than keeping it with my parents, but it's definitely, with COVID and everything that's going on in 2020, my parents can't take my crap, okay? They just can't. They can't pick up yet another thing, and I don't want to feel like I'm a burden onto them. So I started to try to change my care plan a little bit to include people that I can trust. So I did tell a few friends, not the full extent of my crisis, but just really, this is where I am on this crisis plan, and this is what I need you to do as my friend. And I also reached out and I found myself a therapist. I had a therapist for many, many years, but because of COVID, she wasn't doing telehealth patients, so I actually had to switch therapists. So I've gone through a bunch of different ones, and I finally think I have come across one that I like, that I really enjoy, and I think that she's absolutely amazing for me, but she is a part of my care team now, and I really just have a therapist so that I can talk through however I'm feeling if there's something that I'm not comfortable trying to dissect on my own. But having those people around just to have support is absolutely helpful. To have somebody to see, like, hey, have you worked out today? Hey, is there anything that I can do? Have you gotten out of the bed today? It's the most recent one. Are you going to get dressed today? Maybe there's something we can do that's COVID friendly for you to get out of the bed so that you're not just in the bed all day. And then working from home, like, I can work from my bed, so it really gets bad really fast. So I thank God for that community. I thank you guys as my community, if you are watching, for being there for me, because it's definitely made a world of difference. The fifth and final piece of advice that I want to give is to really just do the work, guys. It's so hard, especially when you're dealing with things like depression and anxiety and multiple personalities or bipolar depression or things like that. Like, all of the things are very hard and very difficult. And with 2020, 90% of everybody is depressed out here, whether we want to admit it or not, because the extroverts can't leave the house. The introverts are stuck with the extroverts, and or the introverts were really extroverted introverts and now can't even get their extrovertedness to come out in their introvertedness. And there's COVID, and then the elections, and then Black Lives Matter, and friend groups falling apart, and marriages falling apart, and dating relationships falling apart, and all the things. People having babies, people not being able to have babies, people, just everything is happening, and it's so much. And whether we want to admit it or not, it's not normal to be depressed. It's not. It might be common, but it's not normal. So when you're dealing with all that and everybody else around you is dealing with it too, it's so hard to get up and do the work and just say, hey, I'm choosing today to show up for myself. And that has just been a mantra for me. It's been a mantra that I've shared recently, and it's just something that's so near and dear to my heart. Am I going to choose to show up for myself today? Am I going to choose to show up for my wellness? And that's in every aspect of wellness, right? Like, it's not just about the money or your emotional or mental health, right? There's 8 different dimensions of wellness. So if we're talking about our mental health, like, what am I going to do today so that I learn something new? so that my mental capacity is tested, and or I deconstruct something that is unhealthy or something that I believe to be unhealthy within my mental construct. So recently I've been really having these battles within myself and deconstructing what is sexuality, right? Like, as a Christian woman, as a Christian single woman, what is sexuality? What does sexuality look like? Why do I believe the things I believe? Do I really believe the things that I believe? What does the Bible say? And how do I interpret what the Bible says as it relates to my sexuality? And that's not saying I'm questioning my sexuality. Don't get it twisted. But it is saying that I'm questioning the constructs that aren't true, right? Like, when people say you need to be in contentment in your single season, like, what does that even mean? I'm not going to find contentment anywhere in the Bible when it comes to my single season. If anything, it says that there's a common theme of me being uncomfortable in seasons so that God can grow me in those uncomfortable seasons. So should my singleness season be easy or should it be uncomfortable? Tell me. Okay? Like, I've been really just digging into all these different mental constructs, and sometimes you have to do that in order to grow. But it's hard to do, right? It's hard to sit down and be like, I want to question my mental stability today. I want to question what I believe that makes me mentally sound in order for me to truly be mentally sound. Especially, like I said, when we're depressed, it's hard to do that questioning. Again, and emotional wellness. Am I really being honest about my feelings? Am I really being true to who I am and how I really feel? Or am I stuffing down my feelings? Or am I just trying to play nice? Or, like, who am I inside? Where does she come from? Who is she? And do I really connect with who I think I am? Your spiritual wellness, right? Like, not only do I believe what I think I believe on a spiritual level, but am I even connecting to what I believe, right? Like, if I believe to be a Christian, which I do, am I connecting to the Holy Spirit on a daily basis? Am I hearing from God as it pertains to my life? What does it look like for me to truly love God? Am I expressively showing that in my actions to other people? Am I showing that in my actions to Him? Am I showing that in my actions in private? All the things. Showing up in that way. What does it look like for me to show up spiritually on a daily basis, right? Not just reading the Bible or singing a cute song, but what does it look like for me to dig deep spiritually on a daily basis? What does it look like for me to have faith or grow in my faith? What does it look like for me to grow, period, spiritually? What am I growing to become? You know, on a Christian standpoint, we grow to be more like Jesus. What does that even look like? Is that the holy saint in the corner that keeps herself completely covered from head to toe and is a monk and just prays all day and doesn't interact with people? Or is it the person that goes out and is trying to hand out tracts at the strip club? Like, what does it look like to be more like Jesus? Are these all human constructs that we don't really believe, you know? Or that are our beliefs that are overtaken, that have overtaken the true essence of who Christ is. And you have your relational wellness, and especially when we're in crisis, what does it look like? How am I interacting with the people around me? I've said this in a video in the past, and I stand by it now. The people closest to you do not sign up to be your punching bags. They do not sign up to be your therapist. They do not sign up to be your footstool. They sign up to be your people, the people in your life, the people that you love. So what does that look like? Are you truly loving on them the way that you want to be loved? Are you treating them the way that you want to be treated? Or are you walking all over them because you're miserable and you want them to be miserable too? And if that is the case, how do you change yourself so that you no longer want misery for yourself or for the people around you? And how does that look? Like, what does it look like to show up in those relationships? For me, I tend to isolate. So when I need to show up for those relationships, I need to shut my brain off long enough for me to hear what they have to say, like completely hear what they have to say. Have a conversation with them, pick their brains, hear them out, be there for them if they need me, and don't be afraid to allow them to be there for me when I need them. Financial wellness, right? Like, it's not just showing up and not spending or saving. It's also making yourself a priority when it comes to your finances, especially if you have other people that are leaning on you or depending on you. What does that look like, right? How do you get something for yourself? How do you put a little to the side for yourself? How do you keep God the center of your finances? And how do you make wise decisions for your finances so that you have lasting results? And beyond just, having an emergency fund and all those things. And those things are great. I'm not taking from that. Trust and believe. I follow all the rules. But also, what does it look like to operate in wisdom? When God says, in my case, for me to move back home with my parents during a pandemic, even though I have this entire beautiful house at my disposal, what does that look like? How do I do that financially smart and not sacrifice my mental and emotional health? You know what I'm saying? And then environmentally, like, what does it look like to show up for your environmental health? Is it recycling for you? Is it cleaning your space and ensuring that you have a space where you feel comfortable? Or even if it's just wholly disorganization, having your disorganization so that it doesn't affect the other people around you and things of that nature. How do you show up in those ways? How do you make sure that when I'm feeling depressed and I don't want to get out of bed, I still make sure that my clothes are clean? I still make sure that my showers are clean and my toilets are clean so that the environment that I'm living in isn't suffering even though I am. And lastly, what does it look like to physically show up for yourself, right? And this has changed for me. At the beginning of quarantine, I could have told you that it was all about losing the weight and being strict and eating all the right things, and all those things are great. I'm not taking from that, like I said. It definitely makes a huge difference when I'm eating well and treating my body kindly as it relates to my wellness. But showing up for myself, really showing up for myself physically, is looking myself in the mirror and loving the woman on the other side, showing her grace, showing her kindness, looking at her rolls and her acne scars and her frizzy hair that won't act right and her occasional heat damage before the haircut, and tell her that she's beautiful and love all that she is, and allow her to go 2 pounds up and 5 pounds down, or 5 pounds up and 2 pounds down, and whatever it is, just allow her to be her and allow her body to speak to her and to listen to her and to be cautious about what she allows in her spirit, but physically into her spirit, right? So like, being cautious in my case about the allergens that I'm around, and really making sure that I'm doing the best that I can to show up for me so that I can show up for everything else. So I can show up for you here on the blog, and I can show up for my mentee and for my colleagues at work, and so I can show up for the Candid Care business and for all the customers that have been so gracious to purchase, and to show up for my aunt who had the stroke, and for my grandparents who are caring for her, and to show up for everybody else that needs a piece of my love and needs a piece of me to just exist, right? Like, I've come to realize that even the people that hate on you need you to a certain extent because they need something to hate. And that's mad conceited, but if you think about it, it's true. And if you need something to hate, then hate me. I will be okay with that because I've done nothing for anybody to hate me. So I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. And I have to be well in myself in order to still be able to even be that for those people, even the least of these, right? Even the people that spit on me and want to curse my name and all the different things, that's fine, but I have to be well enough to be able to be in those spaces, and I have to show up for myself in order to be who God has called me to be in those spaces. So This is my advice to you guys. Crisis is not easy. It's not pretty. It's not beautiful. And as much as I would love to say that everything will be okay, everything isn't always okay, right? I'm not always okay. And a part of me wanted to hide that and didn't want to share this at all on this platform, because I'm the wellness woman, right? I'm supposed to be telling you all the different ways to be well, but how much more of a hypocrite would I be if I'm telling you to be well if I don't prepare you for the crisis that do come? And the crisis is a part of being well and becoming well. So thank you guys so much for your time and for watching this video. If you've made it to this point, then please like, comment, subscribe, and share to anybody that you feel needs to hear this message. And as we're going into the holidays, as we are going into 2021, and we're just preparing for all the things, know that wellness doesn't have a time clock, right? As I said before, giving ourselves time and giving ourselves grace is great, but understanding that wellness has no time means that just because 2021 will be here doesn't mean that our wellness journey stops or it starts over, or the things that we're dealing with will magically go away. So with that, be good, guys. Be great. Constantly work on your wellness. And I just want to be a testament to you guys that not only will you make it through, but you can make it through. So until next time, bye.